might know it from its family-friendly appeal, but the Wii certainly did have a few frustrating games that made you glad those wrist straps were included. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we'll be counting down our picks for the top 10 hardest Nintendo Wii games.
Treatment complete.
For this list, we're highlighting those games for the Nintendo Wii that proved the most challenging by means of deliberate design and fairness. That means there are no games on here that were hard just because they were broken.
This is one hell of a mess we're in.
Also, the games in question have to be considered hard for the majority of the game, not just the last few levels. Monster Hunter Tri sadly can't be included due to its hardest quests no longer being available since Nintendo ended online services for the Wii. Our apologies. Number 10, Resident Evil: The Darkside Chronicles.
Shoot it!
The survival horror genre is not to be entered lightly, it seems. As a rail shooter, The Darkside Chronicles serves as a revised rendition of the events of Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil Code Veronica, but with increasingly difficult foes. The standard zombies, additional virus-mutated creatures, and near-invulnerable bosses from the past games are all here, and they are relentless and brutal in their potential for damage.
Shoot it!
Factor in split-second prompts to dodge attacks lest your character get injured, and you have a game designed to put new players to the test.
They're blocking our way!
Number 9, Mercury Meltdown Revolution. Sporting a sentient blob of Mercury as its hero, this puzzle game takes an intriguing approach to level design. Each of the 10 melting labs in Mercury Meltdown Revolution, themselves containing 16 stages apiece, is based around a scientific field. The stages are built to test the player's patience and reinforce a particular lesson, via the scattering of puzzles such as pressure switches and color-coded exits. Thus, players are taught to adopt specific ways of thinking in order to succeed, which can be at once frustrating and cathartic. Number 8, Trauma Center: Second Opinion. Are you ready to start the surgery? An enhanced remake of a Nintendo DS title, Trauma Center: Second Opinion builds on the core tenets of its predecessor, simulated surgical operations requiring precise on-screen maneuvers. Here, the delicate balance between carefully conducting surgery by way of Wii Remote movement and trying to keep a given patient's vitals stable provides the primary source of challenge. At least the game grants players the tools and information necessary to operate, though that doesn't prevent some scenarios from reaching nerve-wracking extremes. Number 7, Dead Space Extraction.
Get suited up quick or the only date you'll have is with an overtime sheet.
Beware the red marker and all that it summons.
The wind's blown out some of the track we laid. Rivet it back into place and get it tight.
2009's Dead Space Extraction serves as a prequel to the original Dead Space, going into gruesome detail about the exact circumstances behind the devastation of the USG Ishimura. To that end, it delivers on a healthy stream of relentless enemies in the form of necromorphs, horrifically mutated corpses that can only be killed by severing their limbs. That singular weakness, matched by the necromorph's natural persistence and close-quarters nature of the game's combat, ensures players always have to be on their toes and working together for their survival. Number 6, Sin and Punishment: Star Successor. The Wii was certainly no stranger to rail shooters, though this went a bit far. Think Star Fox, but as a bullet hell game. Picking up years after the events of the N64 classic Sin and Punishment, the game follows Isa Joe, a young man driven into conflict against his employers, the creators.
Damn it! How did they find us?
In terms of gameplay, Star Successor has players shooting, maneuvering, and dodging enemies while also contending with deadly environmental hazards and increasingly ruthless bosses. It's telling that picking hard mode comes with the warning, you will be punished. Number 5, Blastworks: Build, Trade, Destroy. Even on its easiest mode, this game doesn't hold back. Blastworks is a side-scrolling shooter in which players command an aircraft that absorbs the pieces of destroyed enemies as both extra weapons and shields. Despite this degree of armament, the game itself proves a healthy challenge by ways of its enemies having varied attack patterns, and by said weapons and hardware not being indestructible. Topped off by a complex editor packaged within the core game, this is an experience not lacking for difficulty. Number 4. Sakon Wiki, Quest for Barbarossa's Treasure. It's good to see the hard adventure games of yesteryear have a worthy successor. Sakon Wiki follows the titular duo, a young pirate and his monkey friend, in their mission to find Treasure Island. To that end, Sakon Wiki explore various locales, with the player having to solve environmental puzzles to progress. Said puzzles rely on transforming enemies into items via Wii Remote, interacting with context-sensitive items, and paying attention to subtle clues in order to progress to each level's treasure chest. Everything comes down to a mix of observation and puzzle solving, two values which we respect greatly. Number 3. Mega Man 9. The Blue Bomber's return made for quite the challenging experience, as befitting the series' legacy. Mega Man 9 embodies the early game's 8-bit side-scrolling platforming, with constantly respawning robot foes and instantly fatal hazards, though all of them are much more frequent than prior games. What results is a classic feeling game that constantly throws difficulty-boosting obstacles in the player's path. From the varied robot master bosses to the design of the levels, everything is built to destroy Mega Man, and thus it becomes all the more rewarding to guide him to victory. Number 2. Donkey Kong Country Returns. Originally created by Rare, the Donkey Kong Country series spent many years in slumber. But in 2010, that changed when Retro Studios brought us Donkey Kong Country Returns, a Wii title designed to both revive and revitalize the brand. Thus, gamers are faced with a colorful and stylized world, wrapped around side-scrolling gameplay where animal enemies hurt with one touch and pitfalls are never far on the horizon. From its precision platformer to those f***ing rocket barrel levels, all signs point to a deliberate effort to make the experience as traditionally hard as possible. Before we unveil our top pick, here is an honorable mention. Number 1. Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn. Cautious action is advised here. Radiant Dawn, the 10th Fire Emblem game, builds upon previous installments' designs, namely a turn-based strategy experience on a grid-based map. On top of carefully plotting moves and keeping in the back of their minds the threat of permanent death, players also have to contend with new features such as dark magic and elevation stages. Though mid-battle saving is an option, it still stands that the complexities and various dynamic elements of Radiant Dawn are a grand challenge by design. Do you agree with our list?
It has quite the resume of accomplishments in the field.
What do you feel is the hardest game on the Nintendo Wii? For more tense top 10s published every day, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.